For me, San Francisco is always going to be the first place that I ever called home and really meant it. Growing up, we moved around a few times, and I just never really felt like, as a kid, there was anywhere that I really belonged. And it wasn't until I grew up and I moved to San Francisco that I felt like I was in a place where people really understood me, like in the culture, in the value systems, in the way that they approach life. And it's this comforting feeling of every time I'm away, I always want to come back. San Francisco will always be that for me, this place that finally felt like it could be mine. For the entire time I've lived in San Francisco, I've pretty much always lived in Pacific Heights. I've moved around a few times, had a few different apartments, but I've never really left this neighborhood. Whenever I need to think, or when I need to just be alone for a little while, I always end up on the steps of Alta Plaza Park. There's something about looking out over the rolling hills, looking out across the bay, seeing all the buildings, houses, honeycombed into the countryside. There are so many people here, so many walks of life, such a diverse community, and we're all kind of in this together. And I find that so comforting. This feeling that you're never really alone, that life is going on all around you all the time. On a clear day, when the clouds are rolling overhead and the sky is nice and blue, it looks like something out of a painting. It's just one of the most incredible views I've ever seen in my life, and I'll never get sick of it. And to think that it's always just a few blocks away outside my door, it's just a feeling I'll never tire of. Travis and Matt over at Fresh Air Bicycles are probably some of my favorite people in San Francisco. You know, when I decided I wanted to get back on the bike again, I knew I needed something a little bit different. Growing up, I always rode mountain bikes, but I wanted something that I could take to the streets, and I wasn't really familiar with the landscape of the Bay Area. So I just kind of lucked out. I went down the street, went to this bike shop. These two guys are pretty much always down to screw around, and there's no pretense with them whatsoever. And they worked with me and built me this amazing custom bike that has been my go-to mode of transportation for most of my life here in SF. I take it over the bridge with me, I go and ride the headlands, I use it as my transportation to work, I'll take it down to the park when I need a little alone time. But also, sometimes I just bring it into the shop, not just for tune-ups, but sometimes just to say hello. I'll come by and hang out with the guys, play with their Miss Pac-Man machine, like talk about weird vegan coffee recipes or our favorite punk bands. We make fun of each other on Instagram, and I don't know, it's just it's got this good little hometown vibe, something that I think you'd be missing if you didn't have it. And that's why I always go back to them instead of any other shop in the neighborhood when I'm working on my ride. The social study is kind of a neighborhood haunt. It's this place where, right off the corner of Fillmore Street, all the different local business owners pop in. Whether it's people who own the clothing shops or people who work in the restaurants, you'll always find somebody from the block down there at the social study. It's this great little cafe by day, and then at night, a fun, cozy bar. And they don't have a liquor license, so their menu is always beer, wine, and soju cocktails. But it's amazing what you can do with all that. They do such a great job. And even though it's not necessarily one of those tourist destination places or the kind of place that your friends from out of town would go and rage at, there's something more special about it because it is the kind of place that you just go to when you want to be comfortable. It's that spot down the street. They've got board games. They have, honestly, the best DJ in San Francisco, always playing the most awesome, nostalgic 90s hip hop. And they have black and white movies playing on the screen, comfy spots to sit. So yeah, sometimes we'll just grab a couple of my buddies and hole up there for a while, talk about our week, and just relax. In a city so filled with upscale restaurants and bars, there's nothing about the social study that feels exclusive. It's a place that you go to be comfortable. I'd be lying if I said that the move to Pacific Heights wasn't at least somewhat motivated by the need to be close to Japantown. Growing up, I had this uncle who he would travel a lot, and he'd always bring me back VHS tapes of Japanese movies and cartoon shows, and then he'd bring me back toys that I'd never heard of from out of the country, and I just it kind of sparked something in me, something that never really went away. It's this fascination with their media, with the clothing, with the food. I mean, sushi is easily my favorite thing to eat. And so the ability to just kind of go down the street to browse the bookstore, go to the comic shop, hang out with the guys at the toy store is, in a weird way, it kind of feels like home. It's not a very large space, but it's a personal space. There's the cobblestone walkway with the ramen shops and the paper store. There's the Japanese hardware store where we bought all the plates and bowls for our apartment. And I don't know, there's just like a lot of fun memories there. It's just the kind of thing that brings me back to my childhood, but also continues to play a role in my adult life as well. When I really need to get out and let loose, I always take my bike down to Golden Gate Park. And the first stop that I always make is the polo fields. This huge sweeping racetrack, super well maintained, is the perfect place, one of the only places really within the city limits that you can truly open up. And I'll come down here and literally spend hours tearing it up on the track, going through the park, hitting up trails. And people talk about how Golden Gate Park is the largest state park in any city in the country, but you don't really understand and appreciate how valuable that is until you're in it, until you can get deep within the parklands and feel like you're completely gone from the city. And the quiet, the stillness is a great complement to the need for exercise, the need for fresh air, the need for a moment of extra energy. And so whether it's on my lunch break or on a weekend when I really need to just get out, I just like to come down here. And it's a good, safe space. It's a place that is filled with release. So thanks, San Francisco. Thanks for being that place that I call home. Thanks for being the first place that I ever felt I could open up and build an adult life that was right for me. Thanks for being here for me when I needed you. Thanks for exposing me to new possibilities. Will I always live here? I don't honestly know. But I'm always going to want to come back. And for that reason, I love you, San Francisco.